In this video, I'm going to explain what this show is all about for the coming weeks and months. It's all about book promotion, helping you get the word out about your book. Now, book promotion, or any promotion, can involve a number of different things. Some of them are free, some of them are expensive, some of them, and some of them are, kind of in between. It can include publicity, it can include advertising, and basically a mix of the two. Mostly I'll be interviewing people for their opinion, but I'll be also injecting my opinion from my own experience. I started writing my first novel on January 1 of 1992, and over the following roughly 15 or 16 years, I wrote a total of 4 novels, hard science fiction, because I love science. Since then, I've also written over 100 magazine articles for about 9 different magazines, and then I went on to kind of overlapping that, really. I produced a podcast called The Future and You, which started off monthly and then went to bi-weekly and then eventually weekly for 10 years, producing a total of 485 episodes. Began it in 2005 and had to shut it down in 2016 because I took a job that it took too much time, and there was not time to produce it. This is, I believe, the 7th episode of this show. It's only been going a little while, but I wanted to lay out exactly what the goal of the show is. Now, granted, some people will tell a few stories. Maybe I'll even tell a few stories of my experiences, and their experiences, of course, over the years in our attempt to get the word out about our books. My attempts have included, especially in the early days, say around 2003, I went on TV a number of times, got TV interviews, local TV, not national level. I also did a number of book signings, which you usually hear almost every time somebody mentions book signings that they were disappointed with the results. I was mostly disappointed. I had a different approach. Most people just do a book signing, they just sign their books. My approach was that I had studied handwriting analysis, and so I decided, well, if anybody who buys my book, I would do a handwriting analysis for them, on the spot, live, in person, which is not really the way handwriting is generally done, or handwriting analysis is generally done. But I was pretty good at it, and it was a nice entertainment, and some people bought the book just to get the handwriting analysis. So it was I did sell more than most first-time authors. At that point, I think I had only 1 book out in print. And of course, when I started my podcast in 2005, December 15 of 2005, I did it primarily as a way to promote my books. I chose the future as the topic because I love science and the future is interesting to me, and there didn't seem to be very many podcasts specifically about the future. And so I started off interviewing science fiction writers. So eventually I interviewed some that I admire greatly. Indeed, my favorite science fiction writer, Larry Niven. I interviewed him on the show probably 3 times. 1 time in person, that is to say, I arranged the interview and interviewed him through Skype. It was audio only, mind you, it was a podcast. And then I was on the bill with him at a science fiction convention, and I was on panels with him. And at the con, I was able to interview him again for my show, which was, it was great. It was very exciting to meet, my hero, basically. And speaking of science fiction conventions, I also started going to science fiction conventions around 2003. I think that was the first year I went. And that has helped me to promote my books. And so those are several things that I will be talking about in the coming weeks and months when I'm interviewing people for their experiences and their knowledge of how to promote, how to get the word out about their books. Now, right up front, I need to mention that promoting novels, which is what I write mostly, and writing nonfiction, that is factual books, books of like instructions or how-to, is very different. The promotion is very different. Radio interviews, like call-in shows and talk shows, are very popular for nonfiction books. It's harder for a novelist to get on the radio, but it is possible. There are just fewer venues available. I remember the very first time I was interviewed for a television show, that is for TV news. All 3 interviews were on the TV news in Augusta, Georgia, which is near where I live. Augusta is a smaller market. I grew up in Chicago, that's why I have this funny accent, I suppose. Anyway, I was really shocked and surprised and pleased that the anchorman for the TV show came to my house with a cameraman to video for like 45 minutes me for his weekly piece, One of Us. He would do a profile of somebody in the Augusta area, and it was basically, a human interest story. And the way I got all of the TV interviews, and it was like 5 or 6 of them that year, was that I had called the station and I said, "Hi, I've written a book. This is my first book. I've written a book, and I'm curious if it's possible to be interviewed on TV." That's my pitch. That was the whole pitch. And I learned later why he came out to my house and made a big, kind of big production number out of coming out to my house. He had written a book. The anchor, had written a book and was wanting advice on how to pitch it to a publisher, get an agent. He had no knowledge of the industry at all, which, I was able to fill him in a great deal. I told him that your book is nonfiction and it's made to order for promotion through radio interviews on radio talk shows. Because first of all, it was nonfiction, and second of all, it was literally, the entire topic of the book was air crashes that, this is the subtitle, Air Crashes That Filled Rock and Roll Heaven. He had done 1 chapter each for 13 different air crashes that involved musicians and singers, beginning with, of course, the one that got the Big Bopper in Rudy Valley in, 59, 57, something like that. That was the first chapter, which at that point was, I think, all he had written. He showed me his first and second chapter, maybe. And I told him that this is made to order because, first of all, it's nonfiction. And if people call in, which they will for a call-in show, with questions about these different air crashes, then you can tell them the answer because you're so familiar with it. Also, he was himself a musician, an amateur musician, played guitar and such, and had a little band, like a little garage band. And he had a private pilot's license, so he was knowledgeable about the FAA, which puts out a report of every air crash, which is publicly available. So he had pulled all of these reports from the FAA concerning every one of these crashes. So it was a brilliantly written book. He wrote very well. He had been writing scripts for his news segments for many years. And it was, like I say, made to order for him getting on radio. Plus, I told him, you don't have to go to the radio station to ask to be interviewed, and you can call and ask to speak to the program director, or you can email. I mean, email was still, it was a thing. It was 2003. But you don't have to go to. So if you're going to be interviewed in Chicago or LA or whatever, then they can actually conduct the interview, over the telephone line. Even then, they could do that. And he invited me to his book launch party about a year later. I have not followed up with him. We're not very close. We had only met that one time. But I suspect he's done very well. I know that he's released a second book, which I would, if I were talking to him, I would tell him that it would probably not be as strong a seller because it was air crashes that killed, I don't know, maybe politicians or something like that. Actually, politicians sounds pretty good. It was not politicians probably, but it was some specific career. But that first one was just, man, it was just made to order for promotion. And because this is that, and the reason I'm telling you this is because this show is about publicity and about promotion, book promotion. Now, because I write novels mostly, most of the people I interview will probably be novelists. But I'm going to try to cover both nonfiction and fiction. And basically, that's the plan for the show. If you like that, then hey, subscribe. Do yourself a favor. It's been my experience that information on how to promote your books is actually a bit scarce, which is why I'm doing this show. I mean, frankly, I'm doing this show so that you can learn this stuff. But I'm also doing it so I can learn this stuff. I need to know how to promote my books better. Every author struggles with book promotion. And so that's why I'm doing it. So that I can pick the brains of other people who, conversationally they would tell me this or that, a little bit about how they're doing with their book promotion. But because I'm interviewing them for a wider audience, and of course giving them a chance to self-promote themselves on the show, they will open up more and tell more. And this can benefit both you and me. So if you're interested, subscribe, and maybe we can profit together. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.